Hey, we're on.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Welcome to Fish Talk Live, pre-game show presented by Mad Skills Electric. We're just giving everybody a little chance to get caught up.
Get fired up. Uh-oh, is your microphone on?
Probably.
I don't hear you in here.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Uh-oh. Turn the switch on.
There it is, green light.
This is why we have the pregame show.
That's exactly why we have a pregame show.
It's one of the reasons we have it, because the technical difficulties.
This is what happens when Billy shows up 3 minutes before we
Yeah,
go live.
yeah.
You know why?
Because he was off today.
Be happy I'm here, John.
Yeah.
I am ecstatic to see.
As we said, this is a pregame show.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that you've been drinking since noon.
Yeah, you know, days off
Yeah.
present themselves. So.
Is that why Jordan drove you?
Yes.
Yep. You had a chauffeur today.
Hopefully you guys got out this week, did a little bit of fishing, and hopefully today or within last week did a little bit of voting at the same time.
Yep.
Today was that day.
Today is the day.
Went and did it.
The day.
Yep.
I was looking for a meme earlier, but I couldn't find it. It was a voting
happens.
meme.
It was stacked in the pile.
Yeah. Like I said, I need to categorize my stuff. So.
There it is. Had a beautiful week this week. Got to see a numerous amount of fish out there and some beautiful weather. Even got to run a scallop trip myself.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, you know,
Something
don't get to do that
little
very
different.
often. Yeah, two ones.
Good deal. Don't forget to share this feed so you can win something cool tonight. Really cool.
I don't think we've
Haven't a
decided
clue.
what exactly
Yeah.
it is
Where's
yet,
Gary?
but we'll figure it out.
Is Gary here? I don't even know if Gary's here today.
I hope so. He had a 4 o'clock airboat tour.
Yeah, he's been running around
Doing
with
Gary
his phone.
things.
Yeah, doing Gary stuff. Yeah, not sure. Yeah,
We're giving you all a chance to get logged in, send in those last-minute photos of catch of the week because I sure want to be fishing this week.
I hear we're doing a show about Gag Grouper today.
I'm super excited about this one because I'm just
Yeah.
now learning to how to fish Gag Grouper.
Yep.
So this episode is really gonna come in handy for me.
I'm right there with
In
you.
a couple weeks.
I got to find out this week that I'm running one of Gary's grouper trips.
Hey.
I need to learn a few things myself.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, Gag Grouper are super fun to catch.
That's a fight and a half.
Yeah, you better bring some ibuprofen with you because you're going to have some hurt shoulders.
Absolutely, especially playing in our shallow flats.
Oh,
for
yeah.
'em. We'll go over a few of the techniques that Captain Gary and Mario use for shallow water Gag Grouper because we do definitely play in the shallow waters here for them.
Oh, yeah, it's all shallow, pretty much.
At least for the next 80 miles.
Yeah.
So what do you got going on tomorrow at 6:30 there, Mario?
At me?
Yeah.
At 6:30 tomorrow.
Yep.
Did I forget to put it on the schedule?
You got a meeting or something?
I do, actually.
Scott was just saying don't keep you up too late. 'Cause
Oh,
you
yeah,
got
yeah.
You got a meeting at 6:30.
Scott will be there, yeah.
He's stalking you.
Yeah. Well, I got to be there at 6, so Scott's a late bloomer, so.
Okay.
There it is.
I'll have donuts ready for him. How's that?
Ooh.
Mr. Parrish?
Where's this meeting at? You are calling my name with donuts.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I won't have any donuts. But
Why'd you even
the
mention
thought
that?
was there.
It's where the love's at. It's all good. So, yep.
You could have made some soup out of the stuff you just
Oh
dumped
gosh,
in the
that was
canal.
bad. Yeah, I happened to forget some bait that I left in my cooler from earlier in the week.
So you're telling me that was not the dumpster I've been smelling all week?
No, that was Gene. Between me and Gene, yeah, we got to cover that. Yeah.
Nothing
This-
like emulsified.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if y'all have been at the marina this past week, it has had a slight stench through the parking lot.
Yeah, it was pretty rank.
It was, I don't think pretty's the word for it.
Yeah, it was pretty rank.
Liquid fish.
But yeah, between me, Gene, and Gary, we forget our bait and our live wells. It happens.
It's just part of it.
Gary used to be famous for that.
He
He's
still
been
is.
doing
Still
pretty
is
good.
he's
famous
still
for that. Are
famous
you
for
kidding
that.
me? By the time you get to his bait tank, his pinfish are chips.
Oh yeah. But again, don't forget to share this feed on on your social media.
That's it?
Win some cool stuff tonight. But I think we're going to go into commercial break right now. So
Yep.
when we come back, hopefully we can find Gary.
Get this show on the road.
Definitely. We'll see you when we come back on the flip side.
Hi all, my name's Captain Billy with Ozello Boat Airboat Tours. Just got a really cool piece of equipment to introduce to you guys. It's actually a new key switch from Coast Key. It's a really unique setup that they have made. Instead of having your standard key switch to where you actually have a key that's removable, they took it a step further and made a custom pin pad. You have 4 digits to play from. You can pick whatever 4 numbers you want to make your pin. And then it's a start stop from there. And then they also have this really cool lanyard to be able to start and stop for when you're not at the helm. And it's very convenient for that factor. And having this lanyard tied to my belt loop all day, if I happen to eject myself out of the boat, it also acts as a safety lanyard that I have total control straight from this little key fob. So that is a huge plus in our industry for needing a safety lanyard, and this is a great alternative to that. I do get quite a few questions asked about it as far as how the install goes, how is the instructions on it, and I got to say it is mighty simple. Outside of needing the hole saw to cut the proper size hole for the switch itself, they give you a nice plug and play harness. Everything in the instructions is all color coded on where they need to go from your hots, your grounds, your starts, your stops, all that fun stuff. It was a very simple setup. is a stunning upgrade for a lot of folks with bigger families that have kids running around everywhere. You don't have to worry about somebody taking the key. You just keep the lanyard on your belt buckle at all times, just like a safety lanyard. You can be away from the boat and start and stop it. It's a awesome, awesome product that I highly recommend for your future upgrade.
Welcome to
Fish Talk Live.
presented by PowerPole and OKM itself. Guys, we are talking Gag Grouper.
Ho, 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 it's that time of the year.
Oof, my
Coming
favorite
quick.
species.
Absolutely.
The hunt, the smarts, the strength,
The fight.
the fight, the taste.
Dinner time.
It's almost here. Oh, God, I'm so excited, man. So tonight, we are going to we're going to be giving you tips and techniques on how to be more successful in gag grouper fishing. I mean, we'll get into this later on the tackle table talk and on the casting couch, but you know, I'm going to say it right now just so you guys can start absorbing it. Think simple.
Oh yes, the old kiss it method. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's it. But before we start getting into that stuff, Billy, we have the Billy facts of the week about Gag Grouper. So Billy, why don't you start reading those off to us?
Yeah.
Because there's some pretty interesting facts from what I've heard.
There is.
Now you researched all this, right?
I was playing with it a little bit today on Gag Grouper, to be honest with you. John hands me this list, and luckily already had half of it memorized. Playing with some of the Gag Grouper out here, you know, mass majority of what we're playing with in these waters are in females. They're going to remain a female until roughly about 4 years of age. At that point, they'll turn around and push their way offshore. A lot of them will become males, so it does make them into a kind of a hermaphrodite at that point. If I'm not mistaken, they will remain a female. Oh, wait, nope. How was that? Solid question, John. 50% of the females mature at 24 inches of length, so which is pretty cool. That perfect legal size.
That's it.
The largest gag grouper that has been caught on record, if I'm not mistaken, was off of Destin and weighed like 80.6 pounds.
Golly.
That is a massive, massive gag grouper.
How old do you think that thing was?
Your guess is good as mine, because they do live up to the age of 30, which was something that kind of blew me away. I didn't realize a gag grouper lived that long.
I think they estimated that one to be at like 26 years old.
26 years of age on the guesstimation.
So you're saying there's bigger ones out there?
A lot bigger ones. Yes,
Challenge
absolutely.
accepted.
It's a very slow growing grouper. Most of them are going to be just over 36 inches and will weigh anywhere from about 18 to 25 pounds. But those bigger ones that do push offshore will end up becoming your males, and those are the ones that you want to protect, because those are the ones that are the oldest, and that's what's going to end up helping with the spawn. Once they end up spawning, the females themselves can produce anywhere from roughly 60,000 to like 1.7 million eggs per spawn.
Wow.
Which is another one that's just pretty wild. That's a big number gap, but I would imagine as the older they get, more eggs they produce.
That's crazy. So your typical keeper grouper, 24 inches. Mm-hmm. By doing the math, how old do you think?
Roughly about 3 years of age.
Really?
Yeah. So a lot of your smaller fish that are out there that you see, spearfishing, swimming, you know, even catching, it could be a 1 to 2 year old fish, and anything of that 30-inch mark is going to push that 4 years of age, 5 maybe, which is pretty wild. They've been out there for that long, and you just haven't found them yet.
Huh. All right.
Yep. Good old grouper facts.
What else we got?
There's a bunch of them here. Holy smokes. Gag grouper spawn in large groups along the coastal reefs, the shelf lines. They'll spawn multiple times per season.
So that's a girl you don't want to date.
Yeah. She's fertile.
Releasing between 60,000 and 1.7 million eggs each time they spawn.
Each time they spawn. Yeah,
That's
so
pretty
it does
impressive.
make a lot of sense to leave a lot of your smaller ones out there to continue their spawn, just kind of like the scallop season out there. What else do we have here?
So what's some of the primary?
6 years, that's crazy.
What's some of the primary sources of food?
You're gonna end up seeing them eating a lot of your smaller fish species. They will get into some of your crab species, eating stone crab, blue crab, your shrimps, smaller mollusk of that point. Not really mollusk, that would be a crustacean. Yep, not a mollusk.
Gotcha.
Yeah, primarily eating smaller fish species and crabs.
All right.
Which is pretty cool.
We'll save the rest of those. I'd say, hey, Bree, are we ready to do catch of the week by chance?
I hope so. I
can't
love
hear you,
catch
what?
of the week.
What's the scientific name?
Yeah, what's the scientific?
Scientific name for
Right underneath the
Gag
Gag Grouper.
deliciousness.
Come on, just try. Just try.
Micteroperica?
I'm not even gonna try it.
Close
but-
enough.
Micteroperica?
Matericoperica microlepis.
And then microlepis actually means small scales in Latin.
Really?
Small scales in Latin. Which that
John, your mic's not on.
is pretty cool fact because I mean their scales are very, very tiny. If you were to actually take a knife
Yeah,
and go
absolutely.
backside, it's like glitter. It's a very tiny scale.
All right.
Interesting.
All right, let's go over to the Extreme Decalz catch of the week and see what has been caught. What do we got here, Billy?
Got a nice little cobia.
That's not a grouper.
That's
That is not a
grouper.
grouper.
Nice cobe.
Absolutely.
That's not a
Good,
grouper.
solid redfish, Mr. Dunning. Nice silver king there.
Pooner.
Absolutely.
On the kayak, too.
That had to be a heck of a fight. Congrats on that catch. Very nice, Mr. Boykin. Very nice red. Got a nice football gut to it.
Big thicken.
Absolutely. Out there fishing with Gene, getting into those pretty reef reds. I don't think that's in slot. That's a solid overslot redfish. My
thick
goodness. That had to be fun. Big old black
drum,
drum.
baby.
Heck yeah. Them bottom uglies.
More.
Very nice, Captain. Just gone of it, getting it.
What? Look at that size of that shrimp.
Yeah, that's a big old OKM shrimp.
Justin getting it done.
He's playing down there in the Keys
Bugging
this
out,
week.
look at that.
2024, baby.
He's bugging out.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him having a good time down there. That's awesome. That is
Sharky
a
shark.
cute little shark.
Nice.
Very nice. Coming from Mad Mosquito Outdoors. Good looking red.
On the mud boot.
Go. All right, so let's go over to Captain Mario at the Ayinde Matthews State Farm casting couch. We'll do a quick fishing report of what's happening right now, Mario, and then why don't you tell the viewers on some of the things that you look for when you're trying to find structure out there, whether it be the cracks, the ledges, the rocks.
Uh-oh, camera's not working.
Can we use the PTZ, Bree? All right, just 1 second here. I got some camera issues.
Good old technical difficulties.
Yep. Thought we were gonna do all that during the pregame.
We were too busy pre-gaming.
There we go. That camera should be good.
Actually, the cameras weren't running now. So
We're live.
either one. Welcome to the Ayinde Matthews State Farm Casting Couch. I'm Captain Mario Castello. We're going to talk about gags today. I think Gary wanted me to talk a little bit about finding structure. That's something that a lot of people have a little bit of trouble with. When I'm looking for structure, I'm looking, there's rock piles and there's reefs all over the place, but primarily what I'm looking for, if I'm specifically trying to target gags, I'm looking for ledges. Any type of high relief ledge or any type of big cracks in the bottom, anything like that. And the ones that actually work a little bit better for me are the ones that have that brown grass, that like the rock grass that's growing all over them. That seems to be some of the better stuff. A lot of these cracks and ledges and stuff, they used to boil out cool water. A lot of them don't do that anymore. I guess our water table has changed or whatnot, but they don't boil out the water anymore. Yeah, just like that one on the screen right there. Yeah, that's a perfect example right there. But any type of the big, you see how the grass is growing on the top edges right there. A lot of these ledges, if you actually jump down in the water and look at them, they'll have all that rock grass growing all over them. But that's exactly what I'm looking for, and that's a shallow one right there. That's
a good live bottom.
Yeah, that looks like it's probably in less than 2 feet of water. But stuff like that is what I'm primarily looking for, and we have it all over our coast. I mean, I was going through my GPS the other day, and I think I have about 1,300 numbers in the GPS between Cedar Key and Bayport.
Is that all?
So yeah. I don't fish for gags a whole lot, but like I said, when I do that, I'm looking for stuff just like that. But we're primarily using live bait. I like using live pinfish, and a mistake that a lot of people do is they'll hook them the wrong way, and it does make a huge difference when you hook a pinfish either through the nose or through the tail or through the chest. I particularly like free lining pinfish, no weight, because I'm fishing primarily in less than 10 feet of water, and you don't need any weight. But what I'll do is I'll pull up to a ledge or wherever I want to fish, and well, first off, I'll stay off of that area, stay off of that structure, probably at least 60 or 70 feet, and I'll either power pull down or use my trolling motor to anchor. We try to stay on the side of the current. Now, if you guys are doing this just for yourself, you can fish up current from them, and you'll be able to leave the baits in the water a little bit longer. But I usually have a lot of people on my boat, so what I have to do is I have to set up on the side of the structure. And what we do is we cast up current and let that bait swim down into the rock pile or the ledge or wherever you're fishing, and let it swim right past. And you can watch your line. When you throw it up there, let it hit the water about 10, 12, 15 feet in front of the structure, gets down to the structure. Once it sweeps past, we reel it in, and we do it over again. Do the same exact thing. And you want to get as close to the structure as you possibly can when you cast it. Third, fourth pass, you don't get a bite, that bait's done. I'll take that bait off, either put a new bait on and try it again, or I'll reposition, go to the other side of the rock and do the exact same thing, or just find another rock pile. You don't get more than about 3 or 4 casts out of each bait.
When you're tossing those, are you leaving a little extra slack in the line, or are you keeping that a tight line?
Yes, that's the other thing, is you want to keep a loose line. When that gag hits it, you will see the line jump big time. I mean, it's not just a quick pull. It goes from just laying on the side of the, on the top of the water, to instantly pop straight. And immediately you crank down on them, and you got to get at least 3 or 4 feet of that line back, just because it's a tug of war at that moment. You have to get him away from that structure. Once his face is turned away from the structure, you can normally get him in, but that first 3, 4, 5 feet is very critical when you're fishing in shallow water. In deeper water, it doesn't matter as much. You're just cranking and cranking and cranking. It's all muscle. But in the shallow stuff, it's a lot more technique. You really have to get their head turned. Once you get their head turned away from the structure, keep them coming your way, and when they're halfway to the boat, you got them whipped. But hooking the pinfish, like I was saying earlier, hooking the pinfish, depending on where you're sitting on the structure, is fairly important. What I like to do, if I'm free lining, I like to hook them in the chest, almost like you would hook a threadfin herring, like a live threadfin. You hook them in the chest, you cast it up current. What that does is when that pinfish hits the water and you're gonna have your line slack, if he doesn't swim the right direction, all you have to do is tighten that line and immediately open the bail again, what happens is when you tighten that line, if it's hooked on his chest, it's going to point his nose straight down into the structure. And he's going to want to swim that way because he's scared. So what I do is I'll tighten up. If I see him swimming off to the left or something like that, I'll tighten the line up really quick, open the bail immediately, and he'll dive down into the structure right where those grouper are sitting. Because all of those grouper are going to be sitting underneath of the ledge or in the crack or even on the side of rock piles. They're going to be sitting there, and they're going to be in wait for bait to swim past them. And you have to get that fish right in front, that bait fish right in front of them for them to eat. Once you get it in front of them, it's nearly immediate. Because a lot of times I'm in water shallow enough that I can actually see them. I fish, very rarely do I fish more than 10 or 12 feet of water for these gags. But if you're in shallow enough water and it's clean enough, you can actually see him come out of the rock pile and grab a hold of the bait. He'll immediately turn. As soon as he turns, you want to crank down on him, come tight, and like I said, the first 3, 4, 5 feet is super critical. Once you get his head turned, you've got it whipped. But gosh, there's so much to talk about gags. I'm not even sure where to go from that. Positioning the boat. I can talk about positioning the boat too. The boat positioning, like I said, when I have a lot of people, I usually have about 3 or 4 people in the boat, so I can't sit up current. See, if I'm sitting up current from the gags, from the rock piles and stuff like that, we can actually free line with a very small weight, 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, no more than a 1/2 ounce, just to get it down below the structure. But if you're sitting in front of the structure, you can actually get that pinfish down into the rock piles and leave him there. And it's just going to bother that gag until he actually strikes it, because he's going to sit there, he's going to wiggle in 2 or 3 feet in front of that structure. You can't do that when you're free lining off to the side with more than 3 or 4 people in the boat. But if you're by yourself or even just 2 people, sit up current, run that fish all the way back till he gets onto the structure, or the bait fish all the way back till he gets right up onto the structure, and leave it there. And usually within the first 10 or 15 seconds, that gag is bothered enough to where he's going to come out and strike that bait. And you do the same thing. Turn his head, crank for everything you're worth. Once you get his head turned, you can land him nearly every time. Don't let him turn around. Don't let him turn you into the structure. Once he gets his head turned and he starts to dig into that structure, 9 times out of 10, he's going to get wrapped up or you're going to break off. So tackle, heavy tackle is a key. We use 80-pound braid.
Yes.
And you can use 50-pound main line. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that on Tackle Tabletop. Hopefully Gary was going to talk about it. He said something about it earlier. But,
Hey Mario, a couple questions.
Yeah.
What's the individual limit and the boat limit on gags this year?
I want to say it's 2.
For the boat?
Yeah, 2. It may be. I haven't looked at it. See, I do a lot of catch and release.
If I'm not mistaken, it's still 2 per person.
I think it is still 2 per person.
I think they have an aggregate on it.
It's 4 per boat. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
4
pretty sure they
maximum
still
per
have an
boat. I
aggregate
believe
on
it
it.
is, but I'm not exactly sure with that. But 4 keeper-sized gag groupers will feed 10 people. I mean, there's
fact.
a lot of meat. Yeah.
That's
when
a
you clean up
fact.
a gag, it's not just the fillets that you keep. You can keep the cheeks. You can keep the belly meat, the chest.
Yeah.
Call it chicken of the sea. Yeah, that stuff's delicious.
One of my favorite ways I've had it so far was actually, presenting a whole live grouper or a whole grouper to like seafood sellers and letting them cook it up, and the amount of meat that you get to pull off the bones, it is mind-boggling.
Yes.
Like you said, there's enough there to feed 10 people.
Yeah, that grouper throat is some of the best meat you'll ever have. And the cheeks too. The
Absolutely.
cheeks are so delicious. Yeah.
So here's a personal question.
Yo,
I was
personal.
fishing down current on some ledges last year. Now, if I toss my bait on the opposite side of the ledge and I kind of reel it back with the current, wouldn't that make more sense versus fishing up current? Since that fish is going to come out of the ledge towards my boat, strike that bait, I've already got him away from the ledge. Versus if I'm up current, I'd have to bring him over top of that ledge.
Yes, you can do that also. A lot of people don't fish that way, but it can be extremely effective. if you do it that way.
It all depends on how castable it is.
Yeah, and it all depends on how good of anglers you have on the boat too. See,
Usually it's just me. I don't fish for a living. So
yeah.
I'm an okay angler.
Yeah, if you have people that aren't very good at accurately casting, and if you have people on the boat that that can't time the bait as it swims down, or can't see the bait as it goes down, they don't know when to keep it out of the structure, they get wrapped up in the structure quite a bit. But if you're very versed at fishing, yes, you can fish on the side, on either side. You can fish down current, you can fish up current. It gives you more of a chance to catch the fish too, because sometimes they just don't like the presentation. So
now, say I'm following Gary on opening day, right? He gets his 4 gags out of the ledge, and I know there's some more gags down there. How long does it take for them to kind of cool off? Do I have to wait like 2 hours and take over Gary's spot and finish it out? Or, do they get back to normal in like a half hour?
No, sometimes they do. A lot of times, if you have a lot of gags on one ledge or on one piece of structure, depending on how hungry they are, I mean, a lot of times, if you have similar size fish, they're going to be very aggressive, and they're gonna eat whatever comes in front of them.
Yeah, they'll end up fighting one another.
Oh yeah, they're fighting for food because they're all similar sized fish. A lot of times you have 1 or 2 very big fish and a lot of smaller fish with it. Once you get those 1 or 2 and you don't see anything else come out, I would move, because the rest of them are all smaller fish. But 9 times out of 10, when you're casting and you hook on, the first fish that you hook is going to be the big one. It's going to be the big one. A lot of times when you hook that first fish and you start cranking in, you see 3 or 4 coming out with it. That rock pile is loaded up with similar sized fish, and they're all going to be aggressive. Yeah, there's actually a spot that I call follow up, and almost every time we go out there, you get one gag that's 26, 28, 29 inches, and you'll have 5 or 6 more coming in right behind it as you're cranking that one in. Yeah. And every single one of them is aggressive. I love that spot.
I've also noticed a lot of times, like if you don't, we get to certain ledges, and if you get rocked up on your first grouper, nobody else is going to bite.
Right.
That's almost the end of that spot. If you do not get that first fish up, fishing's almost kind of done at that spot.
Right. Once you break that fish off, that first fish off, it puts out like some sort of signal or something like that tells everybody else that, do not take that food. Yeah.
Isn't there like a guitar string, something to bring them out of the rocks? I think Gary was showing me that.
Yeah, so a lot of times Gary has showed me the same thing. If you do end up getting rocked up and it's a good fish worth fighting, Gary had presented it to me as you get that thing as a nice tight line, and you start strumming that string like a guitar, just like John said, and you will eventually annoy that fish to where it will run out of the ledge and give you a second chance a lot of the times. And that will end up producing that second bite if you can get that fish out of the ledge. But we've played that a few times, and it has worked quite well. One thing I did want to ask you, Mario, in your days of fishing, what was the most unexpected grouper bite that you have ever received?
Ooh. Oh, that was you're popping that one. I can tell you one that was very memorable for me. Probably about 7, maybe 8 years ago, I had a younger guy on the boat. At the time, he was probably 13 or 14 years old. We were sheepshead fishing in the wintertime. I want to say it was late January, and we're throwing shrimp for sheepshead, and we see a couple of these big gag groupers down there, and didn't think anything of, but we were actually cutting the shrimp in half because we were using just pieces of shrimp.
Yeah, keeping them sheepshead happy.
Oh yeah, and we would throw down there, hook the sheepshead, throw down there, hook another sheepshead. He casts it in there, and he hooks onto his big gag on the smallest chunk of shrimp that you could ever imagine. I mean, it couldn't have been more than 1.5 inches, 2 inch long chunk of shrimp. This gag was like 32 inches long, and it was right next to the boat. Because when we're sheepshead fishing, it's different from when you're gag fishing. Because when we're doing the sheepshead, we're right on the structure. Literally, like you can step off the boat and step onto the structure. That's how close we are. And we saw this gag come out and eat this little chunk of shrimp. And we ended up landing it. It was his biggest gag his biggest fish he'd ever caught. It was like 32 inches. That was pretty memorable for me. So I remember that. I don't know. I've got a bunch of cool things. I mean, grouper fishing is just cool in general. So.
Jerry Rhodes has a question. He was told by a pretty reputable captain that it's not too difficult to fish a rock out. In other words, don't hammer your small rocks too hard. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
100% agree on that.
Yeah, once you catch 1 or 2 fish off of that rock pile, especially if it's a rock pile that no one ever fishes, I would leave, because you can fish out a rock very quickly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you were to disturb all of them out of the rocks, they're very territorial in a way, but they're almost like almost kind of like lobster are. If they find that there is nobody in that structure when they come back, it's almost an eerie feeling, and they will not feel comfortable to stay there. So it is, you don't really want to fish a ledge per se out, because it's going to be a while before they turn around and call that spot home again.
Yeah, and that goes for any kind of fish too. If you're in a spot, just say you're red fishing, if you're in a spot where you see a lot of redfish there over and over and over again, you don't want to hammer that spot too hard. I mean, catch 2 or 3 nice redfish, and then you move off of that spot and either leave it for the next time you come out, or you just don't want to bother with it, because once they get annoyed too much, a lot of times they'll get up and move. Especially if you catch the big one, the front runner, the lead fish in that school. If it doesn't feel comfortable there, he's going to leave, and he's going to take the rest of them with him.
Kevin was in here. He did a little spear fishing today. And
Dubicki?
yeah, he was hitting up all the inside ledges and rock piles and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't know where all the fish went. He's like, these guys are swimming these same ledges over and over and over again. I was like, I don't know, maybe they moved or whatever. But now that you guys said that, they're just overfishing those ledges. Those fish are used to
even if
having somebody swim on them.
Right.
Kevin's been in here, twice a week for a month?
Yeah.
And he's swimming the same spots. He's fishing the same spots.
They get pressured.
So those fish are feeling pressured, and they've moved on to greener pastures for a little bit.
And that happens all the time. I mean, it's easy to forget about, leaving them alone when you're catching 8, 10, 12 fish, back to back to back to back. But you do want to just catch a couple of fish, leave them alone, and they'll be back. They'll stay there.
We talked about live bait, but what about artificial? How do we fish for that?
Oh, artificials.
Somebody just brought up a good question. He wants to cast plugs at nearshore rock piles. Who's the best around? Well, it has to be Gary. This is his.
We're gonna have that come here mighty shortly.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about the plug casting for grouper. I'm sure Gary's going to touch on that, because I see him at the ready right now. But yeah, casting plugs for grouper is really fun. It will hurt your shoulders because the plugs are big, the tackle's big. It's hard. It's made for the younger folks.
It sure is.
Yeah,
it's one of the most exhilarating ways to fish them, though, to say the least. When you're casting a solid 4 to 6 inch plug out there, like they said, it'll wear your shoulders out in a hurry. But when you do get that hit, there's no
thunder.
better feeling.
I lost last year.
Yeah, there's no better feeling.
I almost got pulled off the boat one time when I was actually showing the clients how to cast towards the structure and how fast you need to pull it. It was the first cast. I said, we're right in front of this structure. I want you to cast it here, and this is how fast you turn. And then I turn around and I'm talking to him, explaining to him how to do this. And this grouper comes out of nowhere and thumps it, and it just about drug me off the boat because I had the drag locked down on 50-pound gear. And it almost took me over. So
that's it. If you're not ready, don't throw the plug.
Yeah, you got to pay attention. Yeah.
You have got to be ready for that hammer down.
Yep, definitely.
Well, do you have any more on that, Mario?
If there's no more questions, I think we should push it over to Gary over there
we can
on
sit here and talk all night
tackle
about
table talk.
Definitely can.
He looks like he's chomping at the bits, ready to go.
So we're going to hit a commercial break real quick, and then we'll meet you guys back at the Nature Coast Financial Advisors Tackle Table Talk.
Captain Gary Bartell.
Captain Billy Fender here with Ozello Keys Marina.
And Fish Talk Live. Billy, scallop season is here. So let's talk about the CCA Florida Scallop Sorter and how this device can help the stock for seasons to come.
Absolutely. And as there is no real law pertaining to the size of the bay scallop that you can harvest, this is a huge push when it comes to the conservation side to separate these small scallops from the big scallops you're going to want to harvest.
You're correct. You know, the real difference between these scallops is going to be the size of the meat inside of them. The smaller scallops, it's really not worth the harvest. But if that scallop fits through this sorter, let's get it back in the water, because that little scallop can produce millions of eggs in a season.
So let's all follow suit with CCA Florida, and let's sort through these little scallops. I get you.
Alrighty, welcome to the Nature Coast Financial Advisors Tackle Table Talk. We are talking tackle on the table about, like I said, my favorite species I've ever fished for, to be honest with you. As much as I enjoy going out to try to find new species, and you know, the sailfish was cool and all, but there is nothing like the hunt for Gag Grouper. What I said at the very beginning of the show, keep it simple. It's just that. The less metal, the less, you know, weights, the less everything that you can get away with is going to be the best.
I think they call that keeping it natural, right?
Keeping it natural. That's the biggest thing. These grouper are so damn smart. They can, I mean, they can see this stuff. They know. Now, the first day, I'm sure these fish are going to be kind of dumbfounded. You could probably go out there and fish with a metal fork and catch one, but you know, they start getting so wise, and that's why they can live up to 30 years. So as much as I enjoy artificial fishing, I really enjoy live bait fishing just as much, just because it's that wait, boom. You know, when you're artificial fishing, you're anticipating it the whole time. You're anticipating with live bait, but you're going from action, and then fight. With live bait, I correct my clients all the time. Stop moving the rod tip. You know, stop reeling it in and letting it back go. Throw it out there. If it's 10 feet deep, picture yourself letting 15 feet of line out, closing that bail, and get ready for action. With artificial, you got to think. You know, Bree, can we play that video again of the crack? There we go. So you got to think, like, so this is one of my favorite cracks to fish. You got to think, if you go to throw, you know, something with a 2-ounce weight, like one of these Maddox baits, and this artificial grub, even though they did a great job with the scales on it and everything, this is not a natural bait to a grouper. Grouper are territorial feeders. They are not feeding because they're hungry. They're feeding because they are protecting their space. So it's very important that when you toss this bait, you are tossing it 50 feet over that crack. Don't put it right on that crack. You got to get it up and over it. You got to check your shadows. You know, Captain Mario says it best with redfish, and this definitely applies with shallow water grouper fishing. Slow and low. Approach your spots. When you're approaching a crack like this, I don't know if Mario already talked about this, but when you're approaching a crack like this, especially on an outgoing tide or a slack tide, more than likely those fish are outside of that crack. That's when they're feeding. If they're on the outside, they could be 20, 30, 40, 50 feet away from it. They're not necessarily in the crack. So you want to start back as far as you can. Again, not throwing in the crack, but throwing outside of it. You know, throw well over 75, 80 feet, you know, beyond it, to the left, to the right, and then you start working this bait in. You want to work this thing aggressive and fast. Or I'm sorry, steady and fast. Steady and fast. If you feel like this one right here, I think this is a 1-ounce weight for the Maddox. If you feel like this bait's too far up top, then go down to a lower bait or a higher weight. Typically in a crack like that, which is, I want to say that's like 4 foot, 5 foot, I'm using a 2-ounce weight. and I'm ripping that thing from side to side. I'm not jigging it. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just reeling as fast as I can. Same thing with a Rapala.
You get that good reaction bite out of them.
That's it, yep. And we've seen it on drone before. We've got it on drone where you're ripping that thing and you're 20 feet off of it. We've watched a grouper come up out of that crack and just smash a bait. You know, again, they're protecting their space. Once you feel like you've gotten close enough and, you know, artificial is just not working, that's when you want to go ahead and switch to your free line pinfish. A shallow water, when it's that shallow, like in those videos there, like that's actually the same crack. I'm hooking those pinfish through the nose. I'm not hooking them through, actually I'm hooking them through the nose, or I'm actually hooking them right between the tail and their little butthole, to be honest with you. That's where they start freaking out. If you try that little technique, you'll see how much more action they get, but they can't dive deep like that. So if you want them to dive a little bit deeper, go through the nose. If you want them to start just as soon as they hit the water to start going crazy, then hook them in that spot there. But besides that, you know, grouper fishing, 50-pound braid, 50-pound fluoro. I've came across this company, Bree found it actually. They went to iCast and she got a hold of them well before iCast, but it's called Seaworks. I love all of their stuff. We actually, we discounted everything else we have in the store, the mustads, you know, the Vanish lines, everything. And we're switching all to this in the store. That's how good it is, and it's affordable. So we're actually gonna be giving away this, the Maddox, and this Rapala tonight for the giveaway. So check this stuff out, try it. With the circle hooks, let's talk about knots real quick. You know, you always hear us talk about loop knots. The only time that I'm using a loop knot is anything besides a circle hook. The circle hook is the only thing that I do not use a loop knot on, and I just figured that out just a year or two ago. All of my artificial, all loop knots. Be very sure and check your loop knots often when you're fishing for grouper. If you're using one of these Maddox jig heads or, you know, an X-Wrap, check that loop knot every 10 cast, after every hit. I've started using 10 feet a leader and, you know, using the FG knot instead of using just, you know, an arm length because I'm constantly cutting it back, getting it fresh. It's inevitable. It's going to get frayed up. It's inevitable that loop knot's going to get wore out, and there's nothing worse than losing that big grouper that you got to wonder how big it actually was because you might have were a little bit too lazy and didn't cut it.
You just reel in a knot. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So if you have to get that, I think we have a video out on this. If not, we are going to do one on our YouTube page. But if you have to get that bait a little bit lower, I'm against the knocker rig. You know, if you have to use a knocker rig, one thing that I really suggest to everybody is don't just drop that thing over the side of the boat and just open the bail and let it go down. You got to control that bait down because if you just open the bail, that weight's going to fall faster than your live bait or chunk bait or whatever it is you're using, and that thing's twisting the whole way down. And you know, those grouper are smart. Control that bait, put it on the side of your spool, and just keep, you know, thumping your fingers against the spool like that so it's falling. But be ready to close that bail. And the number one thing that I'm going to say to everybody, and I'm pretty sure Billy's going to finish my sentence, the number one rule about grouper fishing, Billy, what is it?
Don't set the hook while using circle hooks.
While using anything.
I am notorious for it.
A grouper will set the hook for you. I guarantee you are not doing a damn thing if you try to set a hook while using an X-Wrap.
Yep.
He already set, by the time that he made impact, he already set the hook for you.
Yeah, when that 12,000-pound boat is pulling that X-Wrap on a trolling standpoint, yeah. You don't need my big butt yanking on it too.
A couple other little techniques that I've learned is, and I thought I was going crazy, but a lot of people, I finally started telling people I've been doing this, other guides, and they're like, oh yeah, we do that. Oh, absolutely. Turn your transducer off. If you're coming up to a spot, and this is really when you're sitting right over a spot. So if you're 15 feet and above and you're sitting just off of it, turn your transducer off. The pinging sound it makes, if you eliminate that pinging sound, you are going to get a lot more fish from that one spot before they start catching on. And I started doing that my last season, and that was such a world of difference. My last season was my first season ever that I never took out a trip and got skunked. And I really do owe it to that, because when we're out there scalloping, and I learned this prior to that, you can hear that thing when you're 50, 60 feet, yards off of your boat.
Sounds like someone knocking on a door.
Exactly.
Tick, 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 tick.
Yep,
constantly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and there's different settings I still don't understand on the GPSs, but just pause it. That's all you gotta do is just pause your chirp and approach your spot. So
I do have a question on the live bait side. I don't know if it came up from anybody, but when you're grouper fishing with live pinfish, I know a lot of people will turn around and modify that pinfish for your redfish, snook, stuff of that nature, trimming tails, dorsal fins. Is there any need to do that for grouper?
no.
Not at all.
No, the liver the bait, the better. Again, it's all a reaction hit. I'm constantly taking live pinfish off of the hooks, throwing it in the water, and putting a new one on. And my clients are like, "Oh, that one's still alive." Yeah, but it's not healthy. It's not swimming down. If you can't watch that pinfish when you set it in the water, swim straight down, or if he's up on top and he's drifting back, he can't battle that current, then it's useless. You want that pinfish to swim straight down. So I don't modify it at all. The best baits out there are the one-offs, the pigfish. I found the blue runners. If you get into blue runners, do everything you can to catch as many as you can, because those are gnarly.
What size pinfish are you using, Gary?
The bigger the better. Bigger the better.
Hand size.
Preferably, yeah, somewhere about the size of your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the
Good 5 to 8 inch pinfish.
Yeah.
As intimidating as using that size bait may feel, those grouper don't care. They're gonna eat it.
They're gonna eat it. And you'll notice too on your pinfish, the ones that have the full bellies, they're typically the ones that when you're hooking it, it pees in your face. The ones with the full bellies, they'll float. So, when I'm going through my pinfish, if I see them have a full belly, I just toss them overboard right away. I'll go with the live active ones. It's just little tricks like that that's just gonna really help you succeed. The other thing I really like about artificial fishing too, especially in the foul area, is you're on the trolling motor the whole time. You don't even have to fire the big engine up. There's rock piles everywhere out there. As you're trolling to each spot, just blind casting to each spot, focus more on what you're going over than what you're casting to, because 9 out of 10 times, everyone, you are passing the ledges, you are passing the cracks, the springs. Those are the hidden gems. Everyone can see a rock from a boat. Everyone can see a rock from Google Maps now, but those little indentations that go under the Earth's surface, those are what you want. So spend some time, find that stuff. Since Brody was 2 years old, I'd drag him behind the boat like a live transducer. So if you have someone that's willing to do it, do that. But
It's a good way to find those new spots. Absolutely.
What kind of knot you tie into your circle hooks?
Is it even called a fisherman's knot? I'll be honest with you guys. I know a loop knot. I started tying that when I tie a weight into my loop knot. I started tying the knot that doesn't even have a name.
That's a GB knot.
A GB knot, and then the fisherman knot. I don't go crazy with it.
I typically use a polymer knot.
I snell mine.
Yep.
I use a snell knot. Yeah. I use the hooks that have the like a 45-degree bend in the eye, and I snell them. I do the same thing with tarpon.
Sounds like I have some Googling to do.
If you have a knot that holds, use it.
Yeah.
Can't tie a knot, tie a lot.
One thing I did start, especially with my loop knots, I started taking my my Bubba pliers and really just squeezing. You know, I leave just a little bit of cutoff on my lead so I can take my bubble pliers and I'll squeeze it to where it becomes flat. So that fluoro goes from, you know, a circle, like a cylinder, to just flat.
That's a great idea.
It's less likely to come through your lid.
Yeah,
With the
definitely
big-
not going to pull through.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the big leaders, that's a fantastic idea. I never thought of that until you just said something, and that's a great idea.
Loop knots
Yeah,
are a
when you're-
pain in the ass when it comes to the big leaders.
Yeah, when you're playing with 50-pound plus, I mean, it would squish out nice and flat.
Yeah.
I definitely could see that working well. Absolutely.
But besides that, if you guys have any other questions, let me know. Cap Mario, Billy know. And Billy, do you want to go ahead and ask the secret question of the night?
Trying to remember what it was. John, what was
Drum roll.
the secret question?
How old is a 24-inch Gag Grouper?
How
First 12
old
people to
is
answer
a
that question correctly.
24-inch Gag Grouper. It was stated in the beginning of the show, so go back and find it or Google the heck out of it.
The question is, how old is a keeper size, a 24-inch Gag Grouper? Roughly, how old is it? Billy said it in the Billy Facts of the Week. So the first 12 people to answer that correctly is going to get added to the Extreme Deck Reel of Fortune over here by Extreme Decalz for a chance to win all this fancy grouper stuff right here. So let's hit a commercial break, and when we come back, let's see if we have all 12 people.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Oh, Lord.
How many do we have on the list here, John?
I'm still writing.
Still writing, so we must have some people with some answers.
All right.
This evening, we're going to start off with Ozello Keys Marina as number 1. Work
Always
our
number
way
1.
clockwise all the way to 12 at marker 48. So once you guys get all clocked in with your answers, we're going to have Captain Mario give this thing a whirl and see who's winning some grouper gear.
I'm going to have to use my good shoulder.
That's it. Is that the Redfish group?
Yeah,
or the
I think
Redfish
so,
shoulder?
yeah.
Alrighty, I got it, y'all.
All
You got
right. All right.
Are we ready? Do you want to name them off, John?
We can.
Yeah,
Number
why not?
1, we have David Ellis. Number 2, Donald W. 3, David Arcan. Number 4, Miss Vicky. Hey, her dinner was fabulous, by the way.
I'm excited
I'm
for
glad
it.
I got to try some before you got into
Thank
it.
you, Miss
Unlike
Vicky.
those scallops we had. Anyways, number 5 is George Quinn. Number 6 is Davis. Number 7 is Dennis G. 8, Chris Dunning. 9, Carol Lee. 10, Josh Nichols. 11 is Jamie Gage. 12 is Adam Franklin.
My money's on
right.
Chris Dunning because he wins everything. He needs to pick my lottery tickets.
You're right, no joke.
All right, you ready? Here we go.
Give this thing a whirl. I'm going for Bubba.
Whatever Chris was on. Power pole.
We are sitting on power pole, which would end up being number 3.
Oh,
David Arcan.
David Arcan, thank you all very much for showing up, playing along with us. We'll have your package ready for you in the store when you show up. And otherwise, I think we're going to call this show a wrap.
Yep.
Appreciate everybody for joining in with us this evening. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Ayinde Matthews, Brian from Extreme Decalz, Power Pole,
Matt
Nature
Skills
Coast
Electric.
Financial Advisors.
Everybody on this reel.
Yeah, thank you all very much, and look forward to seeing y'all. Do we have one next Tuesday?
No, I believe it might be my
It's
my
Mario's.
seminar
Mario's next Tuesday.
Yeah, I forgot all about
Yeah,
that. Holy
who you
smokes,
got rolling next
We got
Tuesday?
Captain Travis Roberts.
All right.
Yeah,
I've
he's
been
gonna,
wanting to get him out here too.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. But he's gonna lead the show
He
next
even
week.
caught a grouper the other day.
Did he?
Oh yeah,
I see.
About
I
that
haven't-
big, but
I
he
haven't
caught
been
it.
on social media in like 3 weeks. So. But yeah, Captain Travis is going to speak for us over at Cedar River Seafood next Tuesday. It's going to be a good one.
He straight kills it. He's the one that really taught me a lot when I first started doing short fishing.
Oh yeah,
he's the man on the canoe. I'm
if
telling
you guys want to play in
good.
some backwaters, Travis Roberts is the one to go fishing with at Happy Place Adventures. So that's cool you got him on board.
Oh yeah, he's consistent.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you here in the upcoming Tuesdays. Fish on.